London, often called the City of Dreams, is among the wealthiest urban centers in the world, boasting an economy valued at approximately £508 billion, equivalent to around $652 billion. If it were an independent state, London would rank as the 22nd largest economy in the world, precisely above Argentina and Sweden. However, London's economic success and that of Southeast England is far from typical for the UK as a whole. This small region accounts for nearly half of the UK's GDP, while housing only about a third of the population. Removing London's contribution would lower UK living standards by roughly 14%. That would put the UK just a notch above US state of Mississippi. How did the birthplace of the Industrial Revolution finds itself teetering on the edge of economic uncertainty? Let's talk about something everyone understands: money. For the average Brit, the last decade has felt like a constant uphill battle against a shrinking wallet. This isn't just about tightening your belt a notch or two. This is about a fundamental erosion of living standards. People are feeling the pinch, and it's a reality that's hard to ignore. The worst part? This isn't some sudden economic storm. It's been brewing for years, a slow and steady decline that's only now reaching a boiling point. Now, let's talk about a word that sends shivers down the spine of any economist: productivity. In simple terms, productivity is all about how much output we get from a given input. And here's the uncomfortable truth: the UK's productivity has been lagging behind its competitors for years. We're putting in the effort, but we're just not getting the same results. Remember that leaky faucet you kept meaning to fix? Well, that's pretty much how the UK has been handling its economic woes for decades. Instead of addressing the root causes, we've opted for quick fixes and temporary solutions. But here's the thing about duct tape solutions: they eventually lose their stick. And when they do, the underlying problems come rushing back, bigger and messier than before. That's where the UK finds itself now, facing a systemic crisis years in the making. Now let's talk about a particularly bitter pill to swallow: deindustrialization. The UK, the birthplace of the Industrial Revolution, is now at risk of becoming the first major economy to fully deindustrialize. The decline of manufacturing has been a slow burn, driven by globalization, automation, and a shift towards a service-based economy. The loss of well-paying manufacturing jobs has hollowed out communities, leaving behind unemployment, social unrest, and a sense of disillusionment. So where does this leave the UK? The short answer: in a sea of uncertainty. The UK is at a crossroads, facing a confluence of challenges that threaten to capsize its economic ship. Inflation is soaring, eroding purchasing power and fueling a cost of living crisis. And let's not forget the elephant in the room: Brexit. To understand the UK's current predicament, we need to take a trip down memory lane, back to a time when Britain ruled the waves and, quite literally, the sun never set on the British Empire. Throughout the 19th century, the UK stood as the world's undisputed superpower. It was the epicenter of the Industrial Revolution, churning out goods and innovations that fueled global trade. At the heart of this dominance was the Royal Navy, the mightiest naval force on the planet. Then came the 20th century, and two world wars that would forever alter the global landscape. While the UK emerged victorious, the cost of victory was steep. The wars had drained its resources, weakened its industrial base, and accelerated the decline of its empire. The rise of the United States as a global superpower further diminished the UK's standing. The Bretton Woods system, established in 1944, shifted the balance of economic power. Meanwhile, defeated nations like Germany and Japan, prohibited from maintaining large militaries, poured their resources into rebuilding and innovation. The seeds of its current economic woes were sown during this period of post-war readjustment. Fast forward to the 1980s and the UK was facing a new set of challenges. Enter Margaret Thatcher, the Iron Lady, who promised to shake things up and restore the UK to its former glory. Thatcher's solution? A radical free market approach that emphasized privatization, deregulation, and a shift towards a service-based economy. This transformation had a profound impact on the UK. It did succeed in taming inflation and boosting economic growth, but it also led to deindustrialization and widening inequality. The question is, can a nation built on services truly thrive in a world increasingly driven by technology and innovation? Let's talk about something a bit, shall we say, delicate. We are talking about demographics, my friends, and the ticking time bomb that's about to detonate right under the UK's economy. Here's the simple truth. The UK is getting old. We're talking about a full-blown demographic crisis with massive implications for the economy and public services. Imagine a family where the parents are nearing retirement, but they've got a whole bunch of kids who are still in school. That's the challenge facing the UK, and it's a doozy. Now let's talk numbers, because nothing screams economic crisis quite like cold, hard data. In 2021, there were roughly 284 pensioners for every 1,000 working-age people in the UK. But by 2040, that number is projected to jump to a whopping 365 pensioners for every 1,000 workers. This graying of the UK has massive consequences. It puts immense pressure on the country's social safety net. Pensions, healthcare, social care, these programs are all funded by taxes collected from the working population. But with fewer people paying in and more people drawing out, the system is heading for a meltdown. A shrinking workforce also means slower economic growth and lower productivity. Remember the NHS? That beloved institution that's been held together by the sheer willpower of its staff and a healthy dose of duct tape? Well, the demographic time bomb is about to test its limits. The NHS is already grappling with staff shortages, long wait times, and a backlog of procedures. Now, imagine throwing a rapidly aging population into the mix. It's like trying to extinguish a 5-alarm fire with a garden hose. And it's not just the NHS. Schools, social care services, transportation networks, and every aspect of the UK's public infrastructure is feeling the strain. The government is caught between a rock and a hard place. Between raising taxes to fund these essential services and risk stifling economic growth and driving away skilled workers. Brexit. That glorious beacon of hope, that shining promise of a brighter future for the UK, free from the shackles of the European Union, or, that giant leap into the economic abyss depending on who you ask. In 2016, the UK took a momentous step, voting to leave the European Union after decades of membership. It was a decision that divided the nation, pitting neighbor against neighbor and unleashing a political firestorm that continues to rage to this day. Remember those promises of a post-Brexit economic boom? The ones about how the UK would become a global trading powerhouse? Well, let's just say the reality has been a bit more, shall we say, underwhelming. The UK's departure from the EU's single market and customs union brought with it a mountain of red tape, customs checks, and border delays. And those much-vaunted trade deals? They haven't exactly materialized with the speed and scale promised by Brexit enthusiasts. And as if navigating the choppy waters of Brexit weren't enough, the UK also has to contend with the ever-present issue of Scottish independence. Scotland, which voted overwhelmingly to remain in the EU, has grown increasingly disillusioned with the UK's direction since the Brexit referendum. The Scottish National Party argues that Scotland's future lies outside the UK, as part of the European Union. The UK government has repeatedly ruled out another independence referendum, but the SNP remains committed to holding one. The loss of Scotland would not only be a political blow to the UK, but also an economic one. So as the UK grapples with the fallout from Brexit, a looming demographic crisis, and the ever-present threat of Scottish independence, one can't help but wonder, is the sun finally setting on this once mighty empire? It's easy to get swept up in the doom and gloom, to look at the UK's challenges and declare, well, they're well and truly buggered. But amidst the storm clouds there are glimmers of hope, flickers of brilliance that suggest the UK's story is far from over. Let's start with geography, shall we? Being an island nation has provided the UK with insulation from continental conflicts. It's a strategic advantage that shouldn't be underestimated. And then there's that special relationship with the United States, a partnership deeply rooted in shared history and pragmatism. The UK remains a key ally to the US, extending from intelligence sharing to military cooperation. But it's not just about geopolitics and military might. The UK also boasts a wealth of natural resources, particularly in the North Sea. We are talking about oil, gas, and increasingly importantly, wind energy. The UK is already a world leader in offshore wind power, harnessing the power of those blustery North Sea winds to generate clean energy. The UK's greatest asset lies in the indomitable spirit of its people, known for resilience, creativity, and overcoming adversity. The UK has faced challenges that would cripple other nations. From World War II to the 1970s economic crisis, the UK always bounces back. A nation of innovators, thinkers, and doers. From the World Wide Web to life-saving vaccines, the UK's cultural impact is immense. From Shakespeare to the Beatles, from Harry Potter to David Beckham, the UK captures the world's imagination, exporting its culture and ideas globally. Thank you for watching. Let me know in the comments what country you'd like to see covered next, and don't forget to check out our video on Germany's economic future, and why Germany will lose the 2030s.